in just 4 days' time, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States. And he has been really busy ahead of the ceremony, as well as meeting the son of Martin Luther King. As you can see, he has been criticising Germany's Chancellor. He's threatened its automakers with tough taxes, and he's questioned the relevance of the NATO military alliance. Well, our North America editor John Sopel explains just what we might expect from Mr. Trump's foreign policy.
There isn't an overarching philosophy. You know, in the Bush-Blair era, we had liberal interventionism. Some people have chosen to portray Donald Trump as an isolationist. I don't think that's right. I think with everything with Donald Trump, you have to view him through the prism as a businessman and a deal maker. If you look at the transcript of the interview he gave, it's peppered with remarks about, we're going to do a deal with this one, we're going to do a deal with that one. He talks about his cabinet choices. What makes them good? They're good deal makers. So he wants to do a deal with Britain on trade. He wants to do a deal with NATO on getting NATO countries to spend more. He wants to do deals with China, deals with Russia, deals in the Middle East. And that is the way he thinks. The worry of the diplomatic community in Washington is that if you do one deal, it has a consequence somewhere else. It's like three-dimensional chess. You can't move one piece without the other pieces on the board being effective, and there is a feeling that Donald Trump doesn't get that. That said, Donald Trump's focus, if he can help it, is not to be on international affairs. It's to focus on US issues, jobs, healthcare. That's where he wants the first few months of his administration to focus on.
John Sopel there, and a little later on in the programme we'll have a special report on how China is preparing for Mr. Trump's inauguration, so stay with us for that.
Let's return now to that candid interview by America's next president, Donald Trump, which has caused lots of concern among European leaders. The president-elect has upset the EU when he praised Britain's vote to leave the Union and said that other countries could follow suit. China has also reacted strongly to Mr. Trump's latest pronouncements. State media in Beijing said there would be strong action if Mr. Trump continued to provoke China over Taiwan. Our correspondent John Sudworth reports from Beijing.
Not everyone in China is taking Donald Trump too seriously. His inauguration this week comes just ahead of the Chinese New Year of the Rooster. And this factory is making, well, giant Trump look-alike chicken balloons. The orders are flowing in. We can barely cope, the boss tells me. But increasingly, Mr. Trump is becoming a target of anger rather than a figure of fun. Mock-ups of Taiwanese ships provide shooting practice at this Chinese military museum, just across the Taiwan Strait. While US presidents have long avoided challenging Beijing's claim to sovereignty, the so-called One China policy, Mr. Trump says he might. China's military, especially our navy, is growing stronger. We don't fear US provocation, this man tells me. We want peace, but if they cross our red line, we have to take measures, this woman agrees. Last week, in a move seen by some as intended to make that very point, China sent its aircraft carrier through the Taiwan Strait. And China's Communist Party-run newspapers have issued a stark warning, telling Mr. Trump that if he changes US policy, Beijing will have no choice but to take off the gloves, and that China will mercilessly combat those who advocate Taiwan's independence. These Chinese workers make luxury marble products for the US market. For them, the biggest fear is not rising military tension, but a trade war. Their American boss believes Mr. Trump's threatened tariffs will do nothing to change the basic market reality.
Hiring one worker in the States, I could hire 5 to 6 in China. So moving our business to the States would hinge into our margins, which then would reflect on consumer pricing. And it'd be very difficult to run a business that way.
The world's about to find out whether one of the most vital and complex bilateral relationships is to undergo a profound change. Before his election, China could simply dismiss Donald Trump's rhetoric as the overinflated bluster of the campaign trail. Not anymore. And China's making it increasingly clear that while it has a lot to lose, so too does America and the wider world. John Sudworth, BBC News, Beijing.